guests this evening are Marsha Rolls from Washington, D.C. Marsha is the CEO of Rolls Collection, and she has participated in many EO global leadership roles and universities. I will ask Marsha to introduce herself more in detail, which will do justice.
Hello. So thank you first, both to Tony and to the Nairobi or East Africa chapter for having us here. Before we start, because I just came from the Masai Mara, which was amazing. I love this country. To have all the Mayo directors stand up, because this is really what the experience of EO is about. And these are my brothers and sisters who just, thank you. So can we give them a round of applause? This group right here, we just spent 3 days together, and it's really some of the most valuable things that I've had the honor and privilege to do. In my professional life, I have a global art advisory group. I have a new company, which is called Close Monday. The Rolls Collection was a company I had for 25 years. I didn't want a retail space anymore, so I have a global, it's a lifestyle art app. I still do artwork for luxury hotels around the world, and we work with private clients and corporate clients.
Thank you, Marsha. Right, my second guest is Benjamin Ayimba. Ayimba honed his rugby skills at Maseno School in Western Kenya. He is the former Kenya Sevens captain and is a businessman by day and runs a rugby academy. He also provides analysis for super sports, rugby, and more notably has been at the forefront of introducing rugby to the grassroots. He was appointed Kenya Sevens head coach in 2006, replacing his coach at Impala and Kenya, Bill Githinji. He also enjoys basketball, cricket, and sports Gor Mahia football team. Coach of Kenya Sevens from 2006 and 2011, and we'll hear a bit more about this. We've got two very powerful guests with us, and we hope to learn a lot. The format is going to be, I'll be asking them a few questions for about half an hour, and then we'll have an open Q&A, whereby you can ask the questions to the guests. Benjamin, as they say in Kenya, ladies first. So Marsha, my first question for you. Can you give us a short glance at your path as an entrepreneur?
So I started my first business. I sold it when I was 21 years old, and started the second business, which was the Rolls Collection, as Tony said. And I joined EO in, I think it's been 1988, or no, would I be? No, 98. 88 would be a little bit sooner. And it really transformed my life, because I was really a lone wolf, an entrepreneur who was doing everything myself, and now I had a pack to run with. The experience, I've been a member for almost 20 years, so a lot of incredible experiences. I hope that when we do the Q&A, you'll ask. The second business I had and ran for many, many years, and anybody that comes to Washington, D.C. knows that company and loves all of the things that came around with it. So I served for my city in Washington as for the mayor, as the Arts and Humanities Director, as well as providing artwork for our city. And when my sons, I have two sons, who one is 20 and one is 21, when they went off to college, I decided, I don't want to have a retail business anymore. I had worked a lot to get to where I had built a multi-million, very successful company, and it was time to be able to do things also for myself. I'm sure plenty of you, your entrepreneurial journey it could be similar. Maybe it's somebody that impacted you, a parent. I had, my impact came from my father, who actually always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And he wasn't particularly successful. I grew up in the southern part of the United States, and it was very hot where I grew up. And his first business was a firewood business, and as you can imagine, it wasn't very successful. But the spirit that he gave me has continued, and I hope that this third company that I built called Close Monday Production, that we're just launching, and I hope that it ends up being our most successful and one that all of you will become involved with, because it will be representing artists around the world as well as events around the world.
Thank you, Masha. Benjamin, coming to you, can you give us a short glance at your path as a rugby coach?
Thank you very much. I feel very privileged to be amongst yourselves, very successful entrepreneurs, knowing that most of you are very young as well. Gives me a lot of strength in my endeavors later on in business, when I leave the coaching and concentrate on business, which I really want to be. The background of rugby in Kenya is very deep, yet so shallow in terms of our success in the recent past. When I went to school, the school I went to was out of the so-called rugby playing schools, so it was pretty difficult leaving that environment and coming. I grew up in Nairobi in Kibra, and of course that being the ghetto, so to speak, no rugby players came from there. Rugby was for the more privileged kids around. So for me, it was taking up something that was out of the norm for the people I grew amongst. I remember sometime just after school when I walked to Impala every evening, and I had a few guys mocking me and thinking, so where are you going there? Will you even know what language to speak? Because they spoke in English and they spoke in Sheng most of the time. And that is where the difficulty of the dream came. But I think for me, I wanted something different for myself. Football was played by everyone. I was quite plumb, so I wasn't as agile as I ought to be to play football or any other sport. So there was very limited choices for me. When I left school and went into Impala and put all the energy I could there, I remember even my mom telling me it was never going to happen, because rugby fast was not a sport that was revered in Kenya, let alone being successful anywhere within the country. So my dream was to prove her wrong, first and foremost, and to live a dream that nobody has. I played for Impala for 12 years. I played for Nondis for 2 years before I went to play in the UK. I had a professional stint there in a club called the Pirates in the Southwest. They played in the what is called now the Championship, the second division equivalent. So having played all that and coming back to Kenya in 2006, we then had coaches who, because rugby was not paying anything, was not paying us any sort of money, they opted to concentrate on their core business. So we're left destitute basically, and somebody had to take the mantle. I remember the chairman walking in and saying, we have two options. We have options of forfeiting our chance to try and go into the world, or one of you guys can then decide to give it their all. We don't have money to pay, so it has to be somebody who wants to just give it a try and see what happens. And I picked it up 2006. I played the last game for Kenya in 2006 in August, and I was coach of the sevens team in October. Of course, that time there was a lot of mixed feelings about whether I would do it or not, but nobody else was going to do it, so I took it up, and we set a goal for winning the World Cup. Believe it or not, between 2006 and 2009, I had this dream to tell my players that we're going to win the World Cup in 2009. And I remember there's a press conference that I said that, and everybody laughed, and actually some of them almost walked out of the press conference. But as fate would have it, a lot of hard work later on, 3 years later, we got into the semi-finals of the World Cup, which was a big achievement for Kenya. So that in itself was a huge achievement. I think from then on, the belief that Kenya would do something in rugby grew a lot more. The players went and influenced the schools that come from. There was, of course, as you know, as success, whatever follows success is politically, there was a lot more people wanted to be chairmen and secretaries. and that happened within a very short while. And by 2011, when we were just trying to regroup, we had a new set of directors plus a chairman who were basically not involved in the game. Never wanted to get involved in the game for the right reasons, and because of my bold character, I fell out to the chairman and he kicked me out very unceremoniously. But I said, I've done my bit. I've put a name out there, and if need be, then of course I'll go back. So between 2011, late 2011 through early this year, I've been going out into counties and trying to introduce the game to the counties that are not rugby counties. That went on very successfully. I've so far done 4 tournaments that are now annual tournaments, are being run by the different people in the counties. And before I knew it, the group that had kicked me out had very high-profile coaches who took us from position 5 to position 13 in the world. And there was no more money. And guess what? I'm back there. I'm back there to try and get the team back onto the dizzy heights. I'd like to say again that in the last week, we just qualified for the Olympics, which is quite a big achievement as well. And I just feel like these guys keep handing me free gifts, bringing me when there's nothing, and after one tournament, then again I become the hero. But that again is a calling that I feel I can be able to do over and over again. Beauty about this is in the Olympics there'll only be 12 teams, and Kenya will be one of them. And that alone in itself makes me want to go on to this journey for a very long time. So up until now, I think the most recent one is the Olympic qualifiers. Some Kenyans are still celebrating, but we go into the World Series in another fortnight, so we're back concentrating on that, but very, very excited that we made the Olympics.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. Thank you. I think there's some real, very good take-home values, what you've just talked about. Masha, coming back to you. Today in America, in the States, 56% of undergraduate degrees are achieved by women. 60% of the degrees are achieved by, and the master's degrees are achieved by women. There are more businesses being startups by women than men. But when you started your career, entrepreneurship was a man's world. It was the macho, the man. Can you tell us some of your experiences as a female entrepreneur and the challenges that you had to face during your path of entrepreneurship?
So when I started, definitely all of my mentors were men. And I'm really grateful to the men who believed in me and saw that there was a spark and that I had the capabilities of achieving my dreams. I now mentor women all over the world, and I've probably mentored about 3,500 now, both very young. I employ a lot of young women. And I see a change, definitely. I mean, I love the women that are here. I hope you all sign up because we have some great things that we're doing in EO, and it's good to see as well many spouses here, because I do believe that entrepreneurship is about the family. It's about the total entrepreneur. Involves your spouse, it involves your children, it involves your community. And I think that has a lot to do with where I've been successful. I came from a very modest background, and I just recently went to look at the home I grew up in that was one bathroom, very tiny, and the person that I've been dating for quite a while looked and said, wow, like he was in complete shock that this was the neighborhood that I grew up with. And I said, wow, are you proud of me? And he said, well, he's very diplomatic. Of course, he said, I don't think I could be any prouder. But he looked and he said, you know, you've really had an incredible journey that you've accomplished, that your perseverance, which I think has a lot to do as well with sports, entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs have to be resilient. They get knocked down, they have to get back up. So I think it's changing, but it takes women to lead. It takes the men to support them and to be a part of it, to be a part of the dialogue. You know, fortunately, I have, you know, again, a great advisory board. Now I have women on my advisory board who've done wonderful things that advised me and helped me get through the tough times. Because sometimes as a mother, some of my male entrepreneurs, even though they're fathers, maybe they don't necessarily understand the challenges I'm facing as a mom, trying to make sure that I'm still covering everything that has to happen to my business. And it's been a great journey, and I think we've got some exciting things happening. Actually, my company just got the first time I've ever taken VC money, and is a great group of women that have invested in this new company, so I'm really looking forward to that new dynamic.
Thank you, Marsha. Benjamin, coming back to you, I'm told rugby is a game of hooligans played by gentlemen, and football is a game of gentlemen played by hooligans. Now, you have a team of players, and I'm sure your players you've got different types of players. How do you manage their egos and diverse attitudes of the players in your team?
I don't prescribe to the adage of hooligans versus gentlemen. All I know is that rugby is played by very, very cultured people. You've got to be cultured to be able to be knocked down by someone and not throw a punch at them. So, and there are very severe consequences for such acts in the game. So, I think the gentleman bit will stick with the hooligans one. We'll keep it to stone throwers at the football stadiums. For me, it's been quite easy, so to speak, because of what I achieved as a player. The players have a different respect for me because they know what I've achieved, and it is easier then to relate to them and tell them it's done. This is how it's done. And if you've seen me walking, I have a limp now because I get involved in training as well to just show them how it's done, and some of them try to show me how it is done now. So I carry an injury now. But the simple fact that they know that you know what it is that you require of them makes it very easy to get into their psyche.
Thank you. Marsha, I'm sure there's a lot of my colleagues who would love to hear your answer on this. You've been to over 100 EO events. I mean, that's probably a dream for a lot of us here. You've been an entrepreneur for almost 15, 20 years. How do you balance work with family life?
And let me add that I was a single mom when my boys were 1 and 2, so I actually raised my sons pretty much on my own. Fortunately, my parents supported that. How do you balance it? Every woman in the room, we just do it. I mean, you do it. And you make it happen because you have to. You've got to take care of your children. You have to make sure, and you strive to have a better life. I think all of us, we all want to do better. We all want the next generation to have better. I mean, passion for me has always been helping the next generation get involved in entrepreneurship and having that freedom to be their own boss, to create their own salary, to employ people, and to have freedom. And I think that's why a lot of people choose the path of entrepreneurship. And I don't know that there's ever a balance. I mean, I get a lot out of EO. I spend a lot of my volunteer time both teaching, mentoring the next generation in EO. Hopefully maybe we'll do a My EO event and come watch you guys play rugby. That'd be cool. Yeah, I think so. It'd be really fun. I'm a huge sports fan, having 2 sons. They played soccer, football here, and lacrosse. One plays lacrosse in college. So I'm on a plane a lot because I still spend a lot of time with them. And fortunately, I have a business that allows me to travel. I wouldn't trade anything. I mean, truly, the friendships and the opportunities that both my professional life and being a part of the EO has given me, there's nothing that compares. Really, the sharing, and wherever you are in the world, doesn't matter if we're here in East Africa or in Washington, D.C., or I went to Pakistan, and I just came back from Osaka. Everybody, we're all the same. It doesn't matter what gender, what religion, what background. We as entrepreneurs, we're all the same. And there's this great energy that happens that you can go anywhere. If you come to Washington, D.C., I have an EO guest room, so I expect everyone to reach out to me. And there's nothing like the warmth that comes from the experience. So I think whenever I had my challenges, I was able to go to my forum and say, wow, and guess what? Half of them had something similar that they had gone through. So we do it. I think whether you're a male or a female, you definitely just strive forward so that you can keep making the world a better place and keep reaching your own goals.
Thank you. Benjamin, you as a coach are going to be on a lot of planes in the next few years and on your run up towards the Olympics. How do you balance your family and your business during the day and your rugby coaching?
Actually, between 2000, basically most of my life I've been on planes, so it actually took a good break. I started a family when I was pretty young, so what I've done now is I'm able to take my free days off the field just for the family, and it's pretty difficult because most of the time you're out there, and before there wasn't Skype, there wasn't FaceTime, so you could only speak with them on the phone, and the kids sometimes don't relate very well to just speaking on the phone. In fact, they're wondering why if you can speak to them on the phone, you can't see them. So I dedicate most of my time outside the field and the little business that I do practically with the family. I'm always at home whenever I have to, and I spend endless times with them. So it was pretty difficult initially, but I think the balance is now struck, and they're growing older and they understand now when I have to move. But I spent, in fact, when I was coming to this meeting, I had to go through the house, and the youngest one was asking if he could come with me, and I said this was purely for grown-ups.
Thank you. Benjamin, in 2011, as some of the different terms that entrepreneurs use, you were relieved of your duties. Somebody would say you were sacked. I would probably say you were fired. How did you feel then? And what was it like being called back again to do the same job?
To be honest, I felt very betrayed because the guy who sacked me and in the manner with which he did was very malicious, and that's because I told him about he was running the game in the wrong way. He'd come to get political mileage on it, and the most unfortunate thing is that this is the time the money had come. This is the time we had the sponsorship. So this guy goes out and hires a British guy to come and run the team. That felt like a stab in the a knife stab in the back, and fortunately for me, it's even as painful as it was. I thought I still would be able to give Kenya something in terms of going and spreading the word around for the game, and because of my popularity, then it made it very easy for the counties to adopt my concepts. And that gave me a lot of relief. But I always knew the culture we have in this country, and most of you entrepreneurs have now understand what sort of people are in this country is. We've got very loyal people, and they only work if you understand their culture well. They can only work with you or under you if you understand the culture very well. If you don't, then you eventually will fail. You've got to know exactly how each and everyone functions, because I know you've got senior management who you communicate with, the CEOs, and then of course they communicate to the rest of people. Once you take care of the senior management, in my case there's only a group of 28 players, so it's easy to talk to each and every one of them and know their character, know how to influence the lines of thought, know how to understand them better. But if anybody does not understand that, you're bound to fail. So the money came in. Guys were paid quite a bit of money, and that is what degenerated until the point where we had players going into the press and saying we're not happy and bits and pieces like that. So it was only a matter of time. Maybe not myself, in the leadership role, but somebody else from Kenya was the one who's going to take us to the Olympics.
Thank you, Benjamin. Marsha, for you, you've going through your profile, you've done a lot for charity. And a lot of my entrepreneur friends are all talking about, I want to do the better for the world, I want to do something for charity, I want to create a name for myself. What influenced this decision for you to do charity, and at what stage of your journey does this come? It touches at everybody's life, but it comes at a stage when, what stage did this come to you?
So I definitely started out as a servant leader very young. I had parents who always gave back, even though we had very little. They always felt like honestly, I felt like I had everything. I had a great childhood. Even though we had a little house, I felt like that we were very rich in love. I've continued to raise many millions of dollars for causes. I think when my boys were really young, the Leukemia Society came to me and asked me if I would run for the Woman of the Year. And I'm thinking, I don't have any time to do this besides raising my kids and taking care of my business and all the things that I was juggling. And I met a little girl who was fighting this blood cancer. And I think that really pushed me further to do a lot more, to reach out through my business and the platform I had created. And I ended up raising the most money nationally across the USA for this program. And so I have 2 healthy kids, and when you look, you have to say how grateful that you are that you put your children to bed and that they are healthy. So I think there are a lot of reasons. I mean, I get so much satisfaction out of helping the next generation of entrepreneurs, and I know many of my peers feel the same way. Being able to give back what we've learned and the challenges that we've gone through in our life, to be able to help somebody maybe jumpstart and to not go through those same situations. And I think it starts at a young age. I think that when you have young kids, sometimes it's not about raising money. Maybe it's giving your toy to a child that doesn't have a toy. And I know that many people that I surround myself with are also servant leaders. And I think that's something that I've taught to my sons. And I think that it's important for society and for us to lead by example. And I'm still on that journey and hope that I have a lot of opportunity to. I'm hoping I get to visit some of the children here. My good colleague and peer is already starting up something from this wonderful trip of wanting to hire a teacher. And I'm so inspired by the people that are around me. So I'm in, Alan, just so you know.
Benjamin, in our organizations, the art of relationship building with clients, employees, suppliers, and shareholders is very, very important. Many people have said you're a very firm man and you speak your mind. How does this affect your role as a coach?
I think it's a very good, but it's a balance to have. I'm very close to my players. I actually know to the last bit of the details. I know where they live. I know their parents very well. I know their families very well, and that makes them very, very close to me. And they then want to play for me because I'm concerned with what's going on. I'm very firm when it comes to running the team, because some of these things cannot just be let loose, and we can't have loose ends when dealing with a group of young men who are very popular, handsome, strong, and have a bit of money in their pockets. It's quite difficult. So there's got to be a line drawn. So they know that the coach has his limits, and they know that I care about them because we go to their family gatherings. Recently, our captain just lost his sister, so I've been a big part in trying to get to the funeral arrangements in place. So things like those make you create the closeness between me and the players, but they know that the lines can't be crossed. That way we've got a very good balance in how we run our affairs.
What makes you jump out of bed every morning?
I don't think I've achieved yet. I think there's a lot more to achieve. We've got, in the circuit, we've got 10 tournaments. And now we've got the Olympics. We've never won a Commonwealth Games tournament. And for me, before I achieve this, which I might not, and I still think that we've got the opportunity to do. I want to get as close as I can to winning these tournaments, the lot of it or a majority of them.
Marsha, what makes you jump out of bed in the morning?
A lot of things, but I would say the passion to represent artists and get their art on walls around the world, to help my clients develop their aesthetics and really to understand what they like and why they want to collect. I'm in, the fine art business, so that really wakes me up and gets me motivated and excited. But a lot of things, I love sports, and I'm really tough too. I'm really tough on my guys too. How come I didn't get that question? No. So there's a lot of things that I love to get up and do, and especially travel. I love to travel. I feel like the friends I make around the world, I learn so much from other people, and experiencing other cultures and having the opportunity to see through the eyes of other people is very rewarding. So it's a few things.
This is for both of you. Given a second chance or a fresh chance, what would you like to do? I know what I would like. I would like to become a Michelin chef. I'd love to do that. What would you like to do if you were given a fresh chance?
I wouldn't change anything. I love my life, so I would change nothing. The one dream that I have wanted to do for a long time, and I keep putting it off, and I have just made the commitment to move forward and to buy a building and open a school for entrepreneurship, a high school to work with high school students. And I've been teaching a curriculum in the most challenged neighborhoods of Washington, D.C. and New York for many, many years. And I'm so inspired by young people. And a lot of times with these kids, if they can sell something illegal, which is a big issue in America, they can definitely take those sales skills and those street smarts and put it into something productive. So a couple of weeks ago, I met with the mayor because there are 2 schools that are no longer used, and I put together a deal. And I'm really looking forward and hoping that EO members around the world come and visit the school. But that's really, I don't know that unless you get to introduce me to something in Nairobi I haven't ever done, that it's a possibility. Maybe we'll have a school here too. Well, maybe, as long as you keep me safe.
I'd like to start a lot earlier. I started my rugby career when I was 14, and that was a little too late. If you look at my peers in the game started when they were 5 years old, and I think that's the reason why I have a lot to catch up with. That's why I've not attained as much as I could have. So the only thing I would have liked to do different is start it a lot earlier.
Thank you, Benjamin. Before I ask my guests to give their final thoughts, I think let's open this now to some questions and answers.
So, Marsha, this question is for you. You've obviously had a very storied career and a very successful business. I said, what do you feel are the 1 or 2 factors that actually drove the success of the business?
So definitely having the right people around me. I think the success of my business has been, probably one of my biggest strengths is relationships, and not burning bridges, making sure that when I see someone important in the room that I think there's knowledge that can be had or opportunity. I've always met these people, and every time I've traveled or been in an environment, I think the relationships I've built has been one of the strongest. But the other part is having the right people on my team. In the first business I had, I did everything. The second business, I got better. And by the second decade that I ran the Rolls collection, I definitely had a good team, had the right people, and had an advisory board, had people who made sure I was accountable. I mean, we as entrepreneurs can be very optimistic, and we like to fool ourselves that everything's going to be okay. And I think that accountability has helped me stay on track. I just went through one of the most challenging professional situations that I almost lost everything, and it was painful. It was painful for my sons to watch what happened to me, and I'm stronger for it. I'm the most focused I've been. So I think when we go through tough times in business and tough times in life, we have to figure out how do we manage that. And I think how I got through it is, again, the same reasons. Having 3 companies where you've been able to build many millions of dollars and employ many people it's the global dream. We always say it's the American dream. It's now a global dream. I mean, for us, I meet such phenomenal entrepreneurs when I travel, which is the reason I go to those 100 events.
From what I've heard from you both, you've come from challenging backgrounds, you've come from humble beginnings. What I want to know and get your experience share on is when the chips are down and really down, how do you pick yourself up and keep going, number one? And number two, how important are your values and the values of people that you choose to be around in those situations?
For me, initially, because I had a pretty large family, polygamous dad, and 10 of us living in one house, and there was you had to have the in fact, for a very long time it never seemed strange to me until much later. Then I thought, when people were talking about polygamy and something, they were vilifying it, and it sounded to me it was family life. Being as many as we were and being able to share things very easily, it never looked like it was an unprivileged background. It was normal until I stepped out, and then I realized how much resilience I'd built being in this family, and being able, and it sort of built me. Actually, it did. I was very tolerant. I was very caring. I was very generous, and those values I've lived with them, and because that was the basis of my life. It became second nature. Nobody had to teach me how to be generous. There was nothing that was ever mine. I'd be able to share anything that I had. So that was a very strong foundation for me. And because of the nature of the person I've been, given that background, I tend to attract the same. I'm good friends with people who share the same values, and it happens without much effort. And it is what I try to instill in my players, because some of them are pretty spoiled as well, if you compare my background and theirs. So I feel privileged that I went through that then, because to me it didn't seem any strange, but I realized the values that I got off that were so strong that they'll live with me forever. And I try to instill it in my kids. They've got a lot more than I did then, and sometimes I actually feel bad that I've got to stop them from having what they think is the norm, and I know it is spoiling them. And but I've struck the middle ground on that. So I try as much as possible to instill that in them, even without having to live in a very large family themselves.
So when the chips are down, after I've cried, used to be, my mother was my sort of best friend, and I lost her in 2009. Very, very hard time. You realize when someone is such a big part of your life, and she was not well educated, but she was brilliant in being able, very intuitive, and she was always right. And I would talk to her about business, I would talk to her about my personal life. So it was a huge void in my life. The challenge I mentioned earlier happened shortly after she died, when I was grieving her death and not in the strongest state. As far as values, I try to surround myself with people who think the way I think, because I am very vocal about being anti-corruption. I am very vocal about transparency. I am extremely vocal about respect, and respect to everyone. Respect no matter what your background is, no matter who you are, no matter what the color of your skin. And I think people know that about me. I have 2 sons who never lie to me. They may laugh and say, "Mom, do you really want the answer to that question?" I'm like, "Well, you just answered it for me. I completely understand." So I think that we as leaders, we have to walk the talk. And I know when I had a lot of great coaches in my son's life, because I couldn't be the man in their life. They needed men and male role models. And I would seek out coaches that would give them that, the values that they got, many from, most of them from their home life. But men need to have male role models to look up to. Women can't be that. So I was really grateful to the coaches and the men that were there for my sons. I think, you are who you hang out with in life.
Vocal on corruption. We need a few 100,000 people like you in this country.
Sorry, sir, for Ben maybe. As a coach, you're not allowed to enter the field of play. Even if it's a very important game, your team might be winning, losing, you can't do anything about the game, right? And often we find in business, as leaders, we try and get involved in everything. We try and score the goal, defend, be the askari, be the driver, be whoever the business needs us to be. What advice might you have in your experience for us to learn how to be coaches and not captains in that sense?
First and foremost is your selection of captain ought to be the guy who you relate to very well. And that's one of the most important things, is a captain who can deliver what exactly your feelings and aspirations are. Having said that, a good coach is one that prepares his team and lets them think through whatever you do. So basically what I do is I give them different parameters within which they can operate. And of course, in your business, you know where the safety parameters are, and you give them the situations as diverse as they could be, and let them then take charge. I know the fear of letting people take charge and not being able to do as you please or as you want. And remember also, they could bring in an aspect that you never thought as a boss or as a CEO. We're only very limited in our thoughts as an individual. And remember that the reason why you hire the people that you do is because you believe in what they bring onto the team. And the moment when you're able to give them what you want to achieve and let them make those decisions, the better you run your business. And I've realized that because I pick players who are looking to a lot of aspects, from their relations with their family all the way through to their relations to the teammates. And I've been able to pick out a captain who relates very, very well with other people, which means the respect that they give the captain, and not out of the captain forcing them to respect him, but the work ethic that the captain exhibits. Usually very good captains are very hard workers, not very good talkers. Good talkers are quite lazy. So good captains are very good workers. So pick out that works very hard, because when a hard worker advises another person to do something, more often than not, they'll do it as the hard worker is saying. When a good talker says something, they'll say like, so you know how to express it, but can you do it? So for me, it's that captain that is very, very important. being able to relate to him or her very well, and then being able to part that knowledge that the captain that you have through the captain to spread it around amongst the peers.
Thank you. We'll take 2 more questions. We're running out of time.
Tony? So my question is for Marsha, EO specifically related. And when I think about my experience and just when I first became exposed to EO many years ago, I had a friend who was in EO and I kept asking him, you know, what is EO about? And I had those questions. What do you get out of it? And he kept giving me the cliche answers, you know, it's your own experience, it's what you put in, it's all of that stuff. And I said, you know, open up and tell me. He said, I can't really tell you, but I can tell you one thing. EO helped me become a better father to my daughter. He helped me become a better father to my daughter. And I remember thinking about it. And when we had the opportunity here and Shri looked at opening up EO here, jumped on board. Today we've got about 20 or 30 odd prospects that are sitting here, some of whom may be on the fence about joining. Being a seasoned EO member, what experience share can you give them that on why they would join?
So yes, own your own experience. You'll hear that always. But when owning your own experience is what you put into it. I mean, the friendships alone, I've had so much growth as an individual. My sons have grown up in this organization. And we started, which maybe you need to pick it up, because we used to have a family conference, and my boys still talk about it, about entrepreneurship as a family. So there's so many things that I think for any of you on the fence, in business, you're going to find peers who have the same challenges. And you're in a safe environment with protocol and a way that you share, which many of you did today, to be able to not be alone, to not necessarily go to an advisor, but to your peers, and be able to share those experiences. If you take advantage, like I have, to meet friends around the world, there's an opportunity to travel all over and have those experiences and once in a lifetime, and listen to speakers on everything from how to be a better salesperson to how to be a better mother or better father. And I mean, for me, I think the person I am today, a lot of who I am is from my experience through the Entrepreneurs Organization. All that I put in, I've gotten much more back from EO. And you'll hear that. The more people you talk to are going to say, oh, I volunteer a lot, but what I get back is way more valuable to me than what I'm giving to the organization. I can say that many, many times. We are doing work for women to make sure that the women in the organization are meeting the programming and giving more leadership opportunities. So I think if there are women that are considering, I hope you'll come and talk to me afterwards. I could go on and on, because I've been a member for almost 20 years, but it will change your life. And these guys, well, I'm going to get emotional here. So we just spent 3 days together at the very end. Yeah, clearly I love it. I love my friends. Yes.
We'll take one last final question, and then I think it'd be great to catch the sunset, and I can see everybody's looking at that.
Okay. Hi, Benjamin. It's a question for you. Obviously, you know more than most of us here that success has come through teamwork. How have you coped when, you said when you started out, you had a vision. 2006, you had a vision that in 2 years we'll win the World Cup. How have you coped with situations where, one of your key members of your team, be it the captain, be it any other member of the team, hasn't quite subscribed to your vision of where you wanted the team to go to, but you knew that you couldn't do it without them? So you needed them on board, but they weren't on the same page as you.
What I've learned over that period of time is that it is funny that when you repetitively say something to someone in a very friendly way, they actually quite simply adapt what you think and what you feel. So what I did at every training session is I picked the senior players and told them, the World Cup is in 2 years and 20 days. The World Cup, we've got to win the World Cup in another 19 months. And every so often, even those that looked wishy-washy, and I don't think I quite convinced every one of them, because if I did, we would have won the World Cup. But at least I'd done a good enough job to get us to the semi-finals. So it is always expressing to them the desire of getting to that point. And we are all very incentive driven. And sometimes not because of what they will achieve, but what the benefits that achieving that would be to them, how it will change their lives. And I remember telling the guys at that point when I told them we're going to win the World Cup, I told them, can you just imagine the point where all the sponsors in this world are running to sponsor you, then you won't have to worry about anything else. So repetitive. And I'll probably do that in my last remark, what eventually does help us to make successful teams.
Thank you very much. I think I'm going to ask my guests to give us their concluding remarks, some advice or some tips for the young entrepreneurs, and which is most of us here.
So just to finish that question, since I started to cry, there is no organization as an adult. I mean, most of our friendships that we keep for life are the young people that we went to school with. And the EO, you develop those bonds and those friendships that I know that if I were ever in trouble, or if I ever wanted to celebrate, or if I ever had an idea and I needed people to help me develop that idea, that my friends in EO are going to be there for me. And no matter what time of the day or night, I can call them. And, well, yes. And thank you. And the last thing I would say, just as a tip, is, believe in your dreams. I think you have two people here who had big dreams, and we're living them. And 3 of us, and everyone I'm sure here as well. But don't give up, because we have all gone through our challenges. We all get roadblocks, and you have to keep looking forward and make sure that you surround yourself with people that have great values and the kind of values that you have, and make a difference, make a mark.
Thank you.
What I've learned through the years is we are limited in what we can achieve by the fear of what we don't know. And more often than not, the reasons why we don't achieve is we've actually influenced those around us to fear as well. At the point where you feel that fear, it ought to come out to everybody else that they need to raise that fear out of themselves. Because the moment everyone buys into our fear, the moment everyone else takes a back seat and fears the next bit. So how I've been able to get rid of that is show my confidence in my team. In that way, they get rid of the fear, and eventually the fear is ripped out of me. So by surely what they want to achieve, that in itself, when I see the confidence in themselves, I get confident because it is them who do the business.
Thank you, Benjamin. Benjamin, Marsha, on behalf of the president of EO and all the EO members, thank you very much for being here. I think we have got no doubts they've been a great guest for us. Some very high-rising stories, great takeaways for home. Can you please give them a big round of applause? And I think we'll agree, Marsha and Benjamin, thank you very much. Great audience, and they've really been very attentive. I think we can enjoy the sunset. The party continues back at the Tintin restaurant. Thank you very much once again to all of you.
fantastic speakers, venue, lots to learn about how sports and business go together, and really nice to see 25 new prospects coming into EO. Looking forward to seeing them.
Yeah, I'm a prospect. It's good to see what it's like. Interesting people, and the speakers definitely shed some good light on this as well. So we'll see what comes of this next. Yeah, thank you very much.
Hi. Yeah, it was great to see a member with 20 years of experience talk about her journey as an entrepreneur and really what she's gotten out of EO, and serve as an inspiration and really open our eyes to the value of the global events which we have, and learning through a global peer group. It's been fantastic.
So I'm a prospect today, so I was very lucky to attend. I'm new in Nairobi, and just discovered EO. It was a great day. I met great people, and I love the values that have been shared today. I'm very grateful to be here, and I really hope I'll become a member.
Hi, this is Tanuj Shah, a prospect attending the EO event here at KICC in Nairobi. We're on the rooftop on the helipad, and amazing location. We had 2 great speakers today, and some wonderful advice and experiences were shared. And this organization is really great. I think it's definitely something that I'm considering joining. And I've had a great time this evening. Thank you.
Hi, this is Rupen with Victoria as a prospect for EO. Today we had a wonderful session. We were with a group, we shared some great experiences, and you realize that EO is a great place where you can bond and you learn, and what you give in is what you'll get out. And as a prospect, as Samnuj said, looking forward to joining the group.
I'm Nancy Gitonga, EO East Africa, currently the membership chair. Today's event is so EO. Obviously, the view it's out here is beautiful. My first time at the helipad, and I have to say that it's a once in a lifetime, yeah, because I haven't seen Nairobi the way I'm seeing it now. Great speakers as well. It was very inspiring listening to Ayimba, and the national rugby national team coach, and Marsha. She has really wonderful experiences. Her passion for entrepreneurship and the school that she wants to set up, I think inspired me. Yeah, so much that I want to have a talk with her about that.
My name is Kalika, and I'm here at the EO event on the KICC helipad, and has been a fantastic event. For me, I think the most amazing part of today has been meeting a fellow EO member who's a lady, who's a woman, and who's been part of EO for 20 years. And I've actually only been a member for 1 month, so it was fantastic to see that people have been in this organization for so long and have benefited so much from it. Thank you.
What an awesome event. I think helipad, sunshine, thank God, and fantastic speakers. Benjamin, Rugby Sevens coach, it was really amazing. And I think to the Nairobi board, a job well done.
Mm-hmm.